Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about episode 6 of season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars called The Gathering. First of all, if my voice sounds a little off, excuse me, I'm kind of battling a little bit of a cold at the moment. So, kind of bear with me there. So, after the big long storyline on Onderon, we get this episode which I'm sure some people out there are calling it a filler episode, and they're probably not wrong. But I think it might be a little bit more accurate to call this a breather episode. We've had a big, long, 5 episode story arc for the most part. I'm sorry, a 4 episode story arc. And, I think we did sort of need to take a break from that rather heavy storyline and just get back to tell a simpler story. It's something that TV shows have a long, long tradition of doing, and Clone Wars has done this before with other episodes, kind of along these lines, that maybe don't contribute very much to the huge overall arc of the season, but do give us some greater insights into the Jedi Order, into the overall mythology of Star Wars. And you know what? I don't really mind that. The rituals and traditions of the Jedi Order are actually some of my favorite part of the Star Wars mythology. But let's get right into some of the things that I noticed about this episode. The first thing is that we are introduced to a Wookiee youngling by the name of Guji, I believe it was. Now, this bothered me slightly because it's sort of Force sensitivity is supposed to be very rare among Wookiees. I've heard it said that only like one Wookiee every 100 years manifests Force sensitivity. And, of course, if you're familiar with the new Jedi Order novels, you know that Chewbacca's nephew, Lowbacca, it becomes a Jedi, and there's at least one other Wookiee Jedi running around in that time as well. So, if you take Guji, and if you take Plo Koon's master, who was also a Wookiee, well, that sort of number doesn't seem to quite ring true, even if you account for how long Wookiees can live, which is quite an exceptionally long time. But, like so much of the Star Wars expanded universe, something like that I think is something you have to take with a grain of salt. I don't think you should take 100 years as a hard number. This seems like a very difficult thing to treat with absolutes. So if you just simply take it as Force sensitivity is extremely rare among Wookiees, then okay, that's not really something I think that's worth getting terribly bent out of shape over. Now, of course, this episode is set on the planet Ilum. This is a planet that is, as they said, very sacred to the Jedi. Jedi have been going there to do the crystal ritual for ages and ages and ages. Anakin did that. Barriss Offee did that. We saw that episode, I believe, on the Gennady Tartakovsky Clone Wars cartoon. Now, what we see here with the Gathering is somewhat different than my understanding of the established mythology as it is related to this particular ritual, the ritual of attuning, getting the lightsaber crystal and attuning it and building your first lightsaber and all of this. Frankly, again, I don't really see a reason to really get bent out of shape over this mythology-wise. The opening narration, I think, kind of hints a little bit to the fact that the Jedi are basically, because of the Clone Wars and so many Jedi dying and all this, they're essentially having to improvise the rituals a little bit or alter them a little bit. Normally, it's a Padawan's master who is with them when they do this ritual. And during this, while the Padawan is using the Force to assemble their lightsaber, put it together and all that, there is a little hymn, I guess you could say it, or saying, or something that the master would recite. The crystal is the heart of the blade, and all of this other stuff. I'm not going to go and try and read it all off to you. If you want, you can go and look it up on Wikipedia. That's the most comprehensive Star Wars wiki out there. And if just throw it in throw Wikipedia into Yahoo or Google, and you'll come right to it. It's an extremely helpful website if you're looking to add to your Star Wars knowledge. Yoda, however, does give a slightly altered, very abridged version of that in his little speech to the younglings at the very beginning. So I take that as an acknowledgement of that, and just them again, like I said, sort of keeping with the improvised version of the traditional ritual. The kids aren't getting the full-fledged treatment as Jedi would have gotten, say, well, back when Anakin was a Padawan. That's established that he went through the formal full course ritual, I guess is the best way to put it. But again, this is really just trivialities, and all of it is easily explained by the Clone Wars going on and the Jedi just having to not having the resources and time and Jedi available to do the ritual 100% properly. Now, let's see here. One thing that I got kind of a kick out was seeing the place where this is taking place, the caves and all this. Is anyone else reminded of the wall from Game of Thrones? I just sort of expected to look up to the very top of that and see a drunken dwarf taking a leak off the side, which would have made for a rather interesting episode, if nothing else. But I don't think this is quite this show's quite compatible with Game of Thrones for a multitude of reasons that I don't think I need to go into. Now, another thing that I'm sure a lot of people were probably complaining about or thinking about was, when the kids saw their crystals, well, why didn't they just use telekinesis to pull them over to them? Well, do keep in mind, some of them did indeed use telekinesis to pull their crystals towards them. The female Rodian, whose name I didn't bother to write down, she did that. But one, you have to keep in mind, these kids are younglings. They're not even full-fledged Padawans. As near as I can tell, these guys don't have masters yet. So it's entirely possible that they simply don't have that level of control of telekinesis. They might have some. It's probably going to vary between them. But if you're going to do something like that, it's not something you want to screw up, especially in a very tense situation. You don't want to drop the crystal and have it fall down a crack or something like that. And also, I think just purely from the mindset of kids that young, wanting to really grab it with your own hands is just the natural instinct. Another thing to keep in mind is simply not all Jedi have a really great affinity for telekinesis. The best known one is Corran Horn from the Expanded Universe, New Jedi Order, things like that. Very cool character. He's somebody I really enjoy, but it's actually established that he has very, very poor control when it comes to telekinesis. Now, he's still a really good Jedi, and he has other abilities and skills, and he can do telekinesis a little bit, but it's established that his grandfather was a Jedi and all this other stuff. That this is something that runs in his family, is that his family are just, for whatever reason, really, really crummy at telekinesis. So you can kind of, if you're really hung up on that, say maybe some of the younglings simply were not terribly gifted in the art of telekinesis, and that's why they just went out there and did things physically. Now, looking at the casting of this episode, I did notice a few interesting people turned up to do voice work this episode. Katuni, what is her species name? Tholoth girl, the girl with the headdress. She is voiced by Olivia Hack, who folks would probably best remember as Ty Lee on Avatar: The Last Airbender. Ty Lee's a great character. I really, really did enjoy her a lot on that show. She was very fun. And the other one was the Nalton kid, the Kit Fisto fella. He's voiced by Greg Seeps. If I get that wrong, please forgive me. I really have no idea how you say this guy's name. But he's, of course, best known as Beast Boy on the Teen Titans cartoon from a few years back. And Teen Titans was a show I enjoyed enormously. Beast Boy was a great character. Greg did a fantastic job with him. So, and again, he does do a nice job here with Zat. Now, overall, my major criticism with this episode is that it simply, and I know this is sort of a ridiculous kind of thing, it felt like a kid's episode. Now, let's take a moment and think about this. Like it or not, Clone Wars is directed at kids. This is something that's basically aimed to bring that elementary school age of kids into Star Wars. This is out there to bring in the next generation of Star Wars fans. Now, recent news says we're going to get some more Star Wars movies down the line. We're not going to get into an argument or a discussion about that here. That's outside the realm of what we talk about here. But at the end of the day, we do have to acknowledge that Clone Wars is basically meant to bring in kids as the next generation of Star Wars fans and also be enjoyable to fans like myself, adult fans. You know, it's a show that is really meant to be all ages entertainment. And considering how dark this show can get, I mean, remember, they've basically killed children on this show. You know, it definitely does dance a very fine line. But this whole thing of like everybody has to go in there and everybody has some flaw they have to overcome or some kind of a little lesson they have to learn, like courage or, you know, selflessness and blah 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 blah. Okay, this feels like a million other kids cartoons that I saw over the years. Now granted, this does handle that whole learn a lesson thing better than 90% of the shows out there. I mean, well, I won't say that this is a badly written episode at all. It's a solidly written episode. But it's just not story-wise terribly compelling. Oh, please excuse me. Darn cold. Anyway, story-wise, it's just not a terribly compelling episode. Especially... I might have to wrap this up a little bit early. My voice is not doing so well. Basically, I want to say that this is probably not going to be an episode that has a huge impact on the Star Wars mythology, especially since if you've seen Revenge of the Sith, you know that all those kids are probably going to be murdered by Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers within about a year and a half or something like that. I'm not 100% on the timeline here. In any case, it's still a pretty enjoyable episode. It's just, you know, one that you could probably take a pass on if you're looking to just hit the highlights of this season. But with that said, folks, I am going to wrap it up here while my voice is still reasonably intact. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.